air travel suffered one of the most severe blows after the global pandemic of 2019. And when I mentioned about the devil in the detail, this paragraph reads out very clearly that a global overview and analysis of the effects of 9/11 and the pandemic revealed that post 9/11 in 2001, which at that time was like a disaster, was 9% of the aircraft were not flying, or the total hours were less by 9%. Whereas in pandemic they were less by 70%. So you can compare the two, which sounded such a big deal at that time as compared to COVID is nothing. Of course it made a global noise because of the terrorism kind of thing. COVID is natural. Well, it's nice to say natural. Where the mischief started and all that's politics, we don't want to delve into all that. But the point is, there are several theories about it and where it started and how it started and how it spread. It was like another kind of a story which we don't want to delve into. But this is the major difference between what happened in 9/11 and what happened in COVID. Both affected aviation, but the severity is very, very different. Almost 8-9 times more. So you can see the difference between the two. Now, that was the downfall of traffic, as I mentioned, how it fell down from 9% to 70%, and now we're talking about the rise, which is much more positive. Global passengers traffic dropped from 9.2 billion in pre-pandemic 2019 to 3.6 billion in 2020. So a drop of 6 billion in air traffic, suddenly in 1 year. But it recovered to 4.6 billion in 2021 and to 6.5 billion in 2022, which is 92% of the 2019. I mean, we generally take benchmarks and say, okay, we have gone so high, but when we fall, then if we come back to good shape, that is where we should take credit for. So we came back, now we are at almost 94% of the pre-pandemic level, and the baseline projections for global passenger traffic indicate that the industry will recover by 2019 levels by mid-2024. So hopefully by next middle of June or July, we may be reaching that level which we had in 2019. This recovery is significant because we recovered in 3 years as compared to less than 3 years as compared to what happened in 9/11, because there we were caught totally unaware. So, we didn't, nobody expected that some such disaster can take place in the USA and in New York. So the motto of this story is that the harder we fall, the higher we bounce. I mean, that is a very, very positive thing that we have learned from aviation. One, aviation is very resilient by nature, good for us. Plus the hard work and dedication of our people who work at different airports or in aviation sector in India or abroad, all over. They are a dedicated lot. They want to give their life for this because it's so glamorous, number one. The industry is so glamorous. Then it takes you around the world, you get to know the best of the people, you have a choice of working with the best of the people. So that becomes very, very significant. On a private note, sir, my new book has been launched in London. It's called Tough Roads Create Tough People. So it's what I'm trying to say. There I took the entire book depends on two factors. One is how a butterfly comes out of an ugly caterpillar. So as you have known that when a caterpillar is just about to die, the butterfly springs out of it. So they never say die attitude. That's very important. Your attitude takes you to the heights, to the altitude, let's call it that way. And then I had taken recourse to the phoenix, the bird phoenix, which is a mythical bird. After every 500 years or 1,000 years, it comes out of ashes. So I would compare our aviation with that kind of a nature, where we think that we are doomed. In 9/11, people thought we are gone. Aviation will never spring back. And see where it's come to those heights. COVID is gone, we'll forget it next year. When we are again back on track, we'll forget that as a hiccup in our course of going forward. Now, The 2008 global financial, now I'm trying to compare what happened then, what happened in these two incidents. The 2008 global financial crisis was purely economic and weakened spending power. It did not affect anything, but the value of money went down so much that the spending became less and people stopped traveling because of that. There was no damage actually to the aviation infrastructure as compared to 9/11 and COVID. And what followed was the formulation of comprehensive legislation that led in the redesign of aviation security and safety. You see, in every mishaps, you have to count your blessings. You know, we thought before 2001 that we are big, aviation is big, we are very fast, and probably it was the divine's message to us that you are big, you are fast, but you are not secure. So suddenly TSA was formed in America, and they did a lot of research and geared up the aviation infrastructure and the aviation system all around the world. Today, we are secure. When you fly over New York, okay. So when we fly over New York, you don't ever think that you go and hit against the world towers. You don't think that way, unless a mishap happens by some technical fault of the aircraft. But you would probably not expect terrorism like we witnessed in 2001. Then damages, visible and invisible, undergone by airports and airlines in the aftermath of the pandemic. Now I'm not a scholar or I'm not a researcher in pavement designs, but we were evaluating all this at one stage, that our pavements, for instance, at airports are not designed for static load. Our runways, taxiways and pavements are designed for moving loads, except for that 1.5 or 2 hours when the aircraft depart. Of course, when we are in the hangars, the aircraft sit for 10 days, 15 days for checks and all that. So those pavements are designed to meet that requirement, but not these. So a lot of aircraft, you see now there are about 30,000 aircraft in commercial aviation today, 2,860 odd to be very, very precise, of which 30 to 50% are in the air. And the rest are on the ground, because aircraft are their best when they are in the air, when they sit on the ground, they are not earning any money for us. So half of the aircraft are flying. Now if all 100% are sitting at our airports, all these runways and taxiways and pavements got distressed, which is not visible, it's invisible. And I learned in Brazil that even the insurance companies are charging higher premium, because when the pavements are damaged, then the aircraft is not stable, the loading is not equal. Now they are trying to resurface the entire lot. And they didn't have time also to move to different airports. I mean, the best would have been, there are so many airports, they could have easily distributed, but imagine we have X number of aircraft of Air India, Bombay is the hub. If all of them sit in Bombay, you can imagine every inch of the pavements were used by, even the runways were full with aircraft parked on it. So there are certain visible, tangible things which are certain intangible. So a lot of damages have taken place which we would probably not see, but we have to understand. Now the three major players, now this is important, that we always, in airports, we are focused on airports. Then there is a group sitting and focusing on airlines. Then there is another group sitting and focusing on aircraft or aircraft manufacturing. We see aviation, which is the right way to do, is to integrate all these three. Because my gain could be airlines' loss, or airlines' gain could be my loss. But if we want a win-win situation, we have to bring a balance of all the three forces together. Of course, when we say that the intention of airports, airlines and all, as I said, is the same. The priorities are the same. I mean, satisfying and ultimately exceeding customer satisfaction and delight. I mean, that's the whole idea. But this is what the commonality is. But then the models differ. Each one has its own model of business. Airports, airlines and aircraft production have different business models. Airports require long-term planning, because you build an airport for 100 to 200 years, 150 to 100 years, and then you expand or put another modules and all. Airlines, generally the age which we expect is between 10 to 15 years for the best utilization period. We have seen in our own lifetime how many have come and gone. 707 went away, 747 went away. You see, because every few years, new technology comes and new aircraft appear. So they have different models. And aircraft has a hybrid model. So the idea is that a composite business model has thus to be evolved where airports are gateways to growth. The whole idea is that airlines continue to develop into mega alliances, and aircraft are evolving as icons of engineering, which they are. Yet the focus being on the passenger as the first foremost frontier. You know what happens is that the passenger becomes a very small entity in those large airports and sitting in an A380, tiny little passenger. But for us, passenger is what we should cherish and assist. And there has to be a seamless connectivity between all three. As they rightly say that the strength of any chain is in the weakest link. So you can see in this image that if you have one weak link, the entire chain will snap. This is what has happened in my experience at airports. If you just neglect one part of it, the entire system goes. And that's not only for one airport. We are all airports around the world tied up in this chain. One weakness anywhere at any airport, because our aircraft are going to touch maybe 6 stations. Any weakness at any point can break the entire system. So the important thing is that innovation is in now. And textbook solutions are out. I just mentioned about those books which we used to worship when we were, and unfortunately even in, I just did my doctorate from Brazil, and I used to go to the libraries. You still find those 30 years old books which we studied in college, and maybe some more. Okay, this is just to say that if we want to do something in aviation in a big way, we have to have a vision. This is what Swami Vivekananda said, that when a blind man asks that, okay, it's nice you preaching such big things, I am blind, what is there for me? Then Swami said that, no, you don't have to have eyes to understand, you have to have vision which is in the mind. Now, we take a few minutes only on the future. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Thank you very much. In case you have any questions, you're most welcome to raise them. And
thank you very much indeed, sir, for that informative presentation and address we had from you. Ladies